Good afternoon again, everybody. We are coming back at you as the judge has asked both sides to be in the courtroom at 1:30. We're going to hang out a bit, see what's going on.
My mom's going to be having a Facebook.
Earlier today, the jury had some questions for the judge in the case. Basically, number one, what was the time frame for the DUI charge? Number two, could the statements introduced where Karen Reed was interviewed by various people over the past 2 years, if the statements from those interviews could be used as evidence? And number three, if Karen Reed was convicted of a lesser charge, would she also, or if they voted to convict her of a lesser charge, would she also be convicted of the main charge in that case? That is to count two. Count two reads as, let me just pull it up here. Count two is manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor. They have 5 subcategories under that. We are back as the judge has asked all parties to be back in the courtroom at 1:30. This could just be a couple of minutes, but we'll see what's going on, and we didn't want to miss this one just in case it is anything of significance. If there is no verdict today after this, we'll be back with you at 4 o'clock. Basically, we have these set up every day at 4 o'clock should there be no verdict, and that's just to close out the day. What you are seeing right now is happy Turtle Boy supporters. The Law and Crime Network just basically spent 10 minutes with Turtle Boy posing on the stairs of the courtroom, signing autographs and taking photos with some of these folks in pink.
Makes me want to puke.
Yeah, it was quite the display. Quite the display. Turtle Boy himself is on, I believe, multiple felony charges for witness intimidation in the case stemming from his involvement with Karen Reed last year when he was briefly involved with the defense. These are all felony charges and they, if convicted, he receives double the time as they are connected to a murder case. Sorry about that, folks. Our side chat is popping over on YouTube. Good to have you all with us again. Gia, what'd you get done in the last hour?
I went to the drugstore to get some medication for my nausea.
Okay.
And I came home.
Is there anything to keep you from barfing when you see Turtle Boy?
I am not thrown up in many, many, many years.
Okay. Well, good.
Despite what I've seen.
Yes. Folks, we've got quite the crowd over on Twitter right now. Thank you for being with us. Again, we do coverage of the Karen Reed murder trial from mainly a neutral point of view, though a lot of our sightings are with the prosecution. Again, the judge asked everyone to be back in the courtroom at 1:30. It's 1:27 now. I'm sure some sort of scheduling or other meeting. It is not a verdict. It is not a verdict. This week's scheduling looks like they'll have a full day of deliberations today and tomorrow, but then they are off Thursday and Friday due to the Juneteenth holiday. Again, if they're off, if there's no verdict by tomorrow afternoon, then basically we won't be back with you for this case until next Monday. I think we've got it all. Abby Poland says, I love the color pink, but this FKR movement, using it makes me sick. Yeah. It seems like the magic Shuggy is with us as well this afternoon. Again, no verdict. We are just waiting for the court to reconvene as the judge has asked everyone to come in at 1:30. Probably just scheduling things. Nothing major, but we will bring it to you as part of our coverage. Then again, we'll be back at 4 o'clock. And then tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock where it counts, 6 o'clock Mountain, and 5 o'clock on the West Coast, we'll be back with you for our evening show, which will either be discussing the verdict or we'll be watching Drunk Girl and providing reaction videos.
Where's Hank?
I don't know. I texted him earlier. I know he's pretty busy during the days when we're not in session.
Okay.
And as Pant says, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Oh boy. Okay then. We again don't have a verdict. We're just sitting here babbling, but we're glad to have you with us. In my off hour, I watched the Angry Vet, who is, well, one of the First Amendment auditors that we cover, get thrown out of a Baltimore courthouse for allegedly videoing in the courthouse lobby. He was raising quite the fit about it. He is still live, I think, on Baltimore County Observer. We'll be doing a full recap of it for the news on this YouTube channel tomorrow morning. We'll also have the full report up, text report up at reallycoolsite.org. That is reallycoolsite.org. Our own Mr. Pants reads those stories for us each morning, and we typically do a newscast when there's enough news at 8 o'clock in the morning every time there's news. Pants, the verdict clock has stopped because this is also time for lunch, I believe. Yesterday they went to lunch from 1:30 to 2. Also, let's see if the verdict clock stopped over on Court TV. Law and Crime Network had major problems with their timer yesterday, so that could be it too. But there is no verdict that we know of as of yet, as it was scheduled. This was scheduled by the court at the end of the last brief session about an hour ago. So we're going to hang out with you for this, and yeah. Yeah, pink is not flattering to some people. That's all I can say. I wouldn't be wearing it. And I look like a demented Santa Claus.
He just touched the flag on the ground.
Oh, Lord.
Not supposed to do that, dude.
Well, I just came from the Angry Vet screaming that Baltimore County Observer was assaulted because a cop put his hand on his back at one point. So, yeah. Drama, 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 and drama.
Hi, Zoer. Hi, baby. Hi. What? Oh. Oh.
That's weird. That just cut out. Let's see. The defense team looks like they are, well, people are walking back into the court. But the law and crime feed seems to have cut.
Sorry.
That's okay. And they are back in the courtroom now. Again, as far as we know, no verdict. They're at lunch, and the judge wanted everybody back in the courtroom for a pre-scheduled conference or something at 1:30. As typical in this case, it's 1:33. They usually run about 5-10 minutes late any time Judge Canoni says anything. So, yeah. And I do wonder if they went to the special place for Karen Reed. What was the name of that place, that fancy place she goes to lunch? Do you remember Gia? There is a fancy place down the street where they go, and it is, I
It's
believe
top
it
drawer.
was,
Yeah.
top drawer.
Yeah.
Like
I've been there once.
$30 for a hamburger.
Something like that. Everything's a la carte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Though Denny's prices are getting up there of all things. Since we're banned for so much food, I was checking out what food is left in the area for me to get. We do have a Denny's, which I haven't been to one of those in years. And I was thinking of getting a burger and some nachos. And it came to $48 with delivery fee. And I was just like, nope, don't need burger, don't need nachos. No, for Denny's food. No, I don't think so.
Capitol Grill.
Capitol Grill.
Capitol Grill. Yep. It's very close
some-
to the Weber Grill where I went. Weber Barbecue has a restaurant. the
For
Weber
some
Grill.
reason, the lights are off in the courtroom.
Uh-oh.
I
Power
don't
outage.
know.
Conspiracy.
Oh, no, because Lieutenant Fan is still spinning, so I don't know. I could
Looks
actually
like it's slowing down.
Maybe Mr. Jackson and Miss Reed are alone in the dark. Who knows?
Yeah, it's slowing down. Someone cut the
Actually-
power line to the courthouse.
Well,
There we go.
there. Looks like we are behind on this. So we are going to jump forward.
There we go.
All right, so as council knows, we received a question from the jurors. If we find not guilty on 2 charges but can't agree on 1 charge, is it a hung jury on all 3 charges or just 1 charge? I got some input from the defense at sidebar, essentially saying if we could just ignore it. We can't ignore it. To me, it's a theoretical question, and we don't answer theoretical questions. I tell the jurors that they're not to be concerned with the consequences of their verdict, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So I would propose just writing simply, this is not a question I can answer on this, and sending it back.
But this position is not, certainly not the position for it. I agree, we can't ignore your question. However, I think that it is apropos, given the timing of when that question came in, literally before the court had answered the other 3 note card questions. I think that it would be appropriate to send a quick note just asking them, given the fact that there's been clarity in your other questions, does this answer your question? In other words, can you proceed without any further input by the court regarding that second question?
So that made sense initially, but why ask them, do I really need to answer it, to then tell them I'm not answering it?
Because I think at some point, they need to know what the law is. It's a reporting question. In other words, I don't see it as theoretical, as the court indicated. I see it a little bit differently, which is what are our options? And the options are built in the law, not in theory. If they come back with a verdict on more than 1 count, but they're hung on a separate count, they are to report those 2 counts, whatever counts they came to a verdict on.
So that's for a later time, right? So this is at this point.
Right.
It's premature, it's hypothetical, it's theoretical. I understand your point. I think I disagree with you at this point. It may be something later. The way the question's worded, if I find this, if we do this. I'll hear from the Commonwealth.
We agree it's consequence related. Your first suggestion, I think, is most appropriate, and we would endorse that.
Yeah. I'm going to do that at this time, Mr. Jackson. I'm not going to have a back and forth with them. I'm simply going to say, because it's true, it's the law, that this is not a question I can answer.
Your Honor, I would strongly suggest that we find some other way. If that question continues to remain, then they're not going to ask that question. I don't think the court can say, or should say, I can't answer the question, because the court can answer that question. The court absolutely can answer it. I would simply say, this question is not before the court without further information, or something like that. Not the court can't answer that question, because if that question remains in their minds, we're going to end up in the exact same position that we were in last year.
There are other steps that can be taken to perhaps prevent that.
Whatever
do you say?
those steps are, I think the first step down the wrong path is to say, throw our hands up and say, well, we can't answer that question. Well, we know we can answer it.
So I don't know if I want to put you in an uncomfortable position, Mr. Yannetti. I'm inclined to answer the question the way I stated.
Could we have 2 minutes to confer with counsel, Your Honor?
1 minute.
How about 1 minute? You guys are 10 minutes late.
We just need 1 minute. Thank you.
Ooh, she's pissed that they were late. Okay, we're going to jump forward just a little bit since we were behind. All it was them looking at each other, apparently.
Of the jury.
Exactly what you would be asking me to endorse. What's the Commonwealth's position on the proposed?
I agree with your first suggestion.
Yeah. I'm going to send it in like this. Your objection's noted.
Your Honor, if I could make my record a little bit clearer, the court's indicating that it doesn't answer questions about the consequences of the juror's verdict. That would be punishment. Of course you can't answer a question like that. This is not the consequences of the verdict, it's how do they report a verdict. So I think saying, I can't answer this, is sending a false message to the jury. If the court would simply indicate, this is not appropriate for me to address at this time, that assuages all concerns. Certainly assuages our concerns and it protects Ms. Reed's rights. I think that...
Well, I think what I could add is this is a theoretical question, not a question I can answer. That does the same thing. Is there an objection? I understand, Mr. Jackson.
Add the clause at this time.
Is there an objection to me putting this is a theoretical question, not a question I can answer?
No objection.
I wouldn't allow the court to finish writing, but at this point, that is over our objection.
I understand.
I just want to make sure the record is absolutely clear. That's over our objection. I don't think that's an appropriate answer to a very, very clear question that could be answered in an innocuous way that does not affect Ms. Reed's rights.
Okay.
This way it does.
Okay, it was a clear question that the defense first told me to ignore. So,
I didn't
Is
tell
that-
you to ignore anything, Your Honor.
all right, we are all set. So let's send this in, please.
All right.
Okay, folks. Well, that seems like a bad development for those who are hoping that she's guilty. The question was if they found her not guilty on 2 charges but were hung on the 3rd, was it an overall hung jury? So it's a theoretical question. It came around the same time as the other questions were not yet answered. We don't know if there'll be developments based on the previous answers. We obviously don't know anything about what's going on within the courtroom, but it does seem like they are leaning towards acquitting Karen Reed. Yeah. What do you think, Gia?
So they were still deliberating while they were
Waiting
Talking
for the previous
No.
questions to...
Well, they were waiting for the previous questions to be answered. They were still deliberating then?
Yes. And they're
Oh,
at lunch
I didn't-
now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're at lunch now. There is
I don't
no
know.
verdict per se, but it seems like they are leaning towards acquittal on 2 and a no contest or a no hung jury on the 3rd. So,
I don't know.
again,
I'm confused.
this is a theoretical question they posed. Just like the other questions seem to be aimed towards conviction, this is, well, what if we get 2 and not the 3rd? So, yeah. This is the developments we have so far. Again, not a verdict. They're supposed to be going till about 4 o'clock today. That's when our next check-in is scheduled by the judge in the case. Judge Bev has us coming back at 4 o'clock. And Judge was very upset with the defense, who showed up 10 minutes late to her asking them to reconvene. Not the greatest way to get over with the judge, but at this point, do they care? Parsons saying she's going to go free. She may at this point. They've given the best case that they can. They're not going to do this a 3rd time. I mean,
I don't think so either.
Yeah. They've brought in an expert. They've corrected everything about the prosecution case from last year. And if they didn't do it, they didn't do it. I mean, we're not going to go through this a 3rd time. I know Hank's already said he's not coming back a 3rd time. I will hopefully be working again instead of being available during this time. So, yeah, I can't even conceive of doing this one more time. But again, for those who are pro Karen Reed, this is a huge uplift, I guess. If they are saying that they may acquit on 2 charges, if that's what you take from the question, then more power to you. But, yeah. In any case, we're going to get out of here again, as there's really nothing to see for 2 more hours. We'll be back with you at 4 o'clock Eastern. Then again, tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, or at 8 o'clock Eastern. Why do I keep thinking 9 o'clock? 8 o'clock Eastern. Yes. 8 o'clock Eastern for our normal nightly show. With that, anything to say, Gia? Gia says goodbye. And again, we'll see you at 4 o'clock Eastern time, unless a verdict actually comes in. Then we'll be back with you as soon as the verdict comes in. Again, thank you for those tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter/X. If you'd like to contribute to the channel, there are contributions in the description of this, or you can see our donations page over on ReallyCoolSite.org. That is ReallyCoolSite.org. We are currently making a living off of these broadcasts, so anything you do can help. At least keep me fed for another week, and the cats as well. With that, we'll talk to you at 4 o'clock. Thank you again, and we'll see you in a bit.